Welcome to UNCAGED, a show that celebrates thought leadership from today's top business leaders. The program provides a voice to amazing executives from around the globe who are shaping the world of business today and mapping the path to the commerce of tomorrow. Today, we're speaking with Sean Kramer. Hey, Sean, how are you?
Great, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm very, very well. It's exciting to talk to someone who's not so far away from me. Sean is the Chief Executive Officer of the Diabetes Research Institute Foundation, which is the nation's largest and most comprehensive research center dedicated to curing diabetes. This is a great, great cause, and Sean and I will talk more about that in a second. But before we get there, Sean, tell us a little bit about yourself and your career.
Yeah, sure. Happy to. So, I've been fortunate that I have been in the nonprofit space my entire career, primarily down here in South Florida. I was most recently the Chief Development Officer for the Parkinson's Foundation, which is located in both South Florida and also New York, and have had leadership positions at a number of nonprofits. And interestingly enough, while I was at the Parkinson's Foundation now nearly 6 years ago, I was diagnosed with type 1 myself. So I started going to the Diabetes Research Institute as a patient. And then a couple of years later, I got the call that their foundation was looking for somebody. And my career background and experience just lined up for me to be able to take the role as the CEO and lead our efforts in finding a cure for type 1. So it's very personal for me.
Yeah, well, clearly a personal journey that you've been on, and it is wonderful that you're able to apply your expertise to something that you understand so well. You're living with it, as well as helping to find solutions for it. So tell us a little bit more about what you're working on now at the Diabetes Research Institute Foundation.
Sure. So the foundation was designed and developed to fund the work of the Diabetes Research Institute, which is part of the University of Miami. So we actually are the largest donor to the University of Miami here in South Florida. And our researchers are simply dedicated every day to finding a cure for type 1. That's all we do, day in and day out. And they've had incredible success over the years in terms of being able to move the science forward. And happy to talk a little bit about what that looks like. There's been a lot in the news as of late, including things like there's a company called Vertex, which is now engaged in a trial using stem cells. We were amongst the first to be able to both pioneer some of that work and also participate in the trial itself. So there's amazing things happening in the diabetes research space, but ultimately we have not gotten to our ultimate goal, which is a cure for the millions of people that are impacted by it. And I tell everybody I have one job, and that's to put myself out of a job.
Yeah.
So
I was impressed. I was reading the news about the stem cell work that seems to be maybe curing HIV. I saw that, and we're starting to see some major medical breakthroughs. And I think probably one thing that perhaps comes out of this whole pandemic is perhaps the medical research community feels reinvigorated, that we can come up with solutions to things, and diabetes is one of the key ones that we're tackling. But tell us a little bit about what's exciting there. What are you seeing in the landscape right now that seems to be promising?
Well, from the Institute side, certainly stem cells and the ability to implant, stem cells into a person like myself to cure them of diabetes is great. But there still remains an issue, and that is with immunosuppression, right? Because stem cells themselves are not of the body. And so, who in the middle of a pandemic wants to be taking immunosuppressive drugs? So the work that we're doing now that is really exciting, we have one of our researchers, Norma Kenyon, who has a daughter living with type 1, has been working with a particular drug called Eledon, moving that into clinical trials, hopefully soon, has shown great promise in terms of being able to use stem cell therapy with islet cell transplantation specifically, and this drug to eliminate the need for islet cell transplantation, which is tremendous. So that's kind of the the last really piece of the puzzle when it comes to the work that's happening there. But even more exciting, I think, is we've got another researcher that is working on beta cell regeneration. So Juan Dominguez Bendala has been working to identify whether or not a person living with type 1 can regenerate its own cells or your own beta cells in your pancreas, even though you've been impacted by type 1 diabetes for decades. And he's been able to now show that that is possible. So hopefully that will eliminate some of the needs for even a stem cell transplantation, right? You take a pill that stimulates the pancreas to grow its own beta cells again. You take another pill to prevent the autoimmune aspect of type 1. And there you've got a therapy that potentially cures people living with it, right? So there are many exciting things happening. Also looking at where do you even place the stem cells, right? So we have one of our researchers looking at can you implant islet cells in the eye? Because the eye itself is immunoprotective, right? So it doesn't allow the immune system in to attack the islet cells that have been transplanted. So just really cutting edge work. And one of the things that we believe at the Institute really is that the work that we're doing, it doesn't matter to us where a cure comes from as long as a cure is found. And so, our research and our work is really made available to researchers from around the globe. So we believe in collaborative efforts. We're working closely with Dr. Shapiro at the Edmonton Center. We work with researchers really all around the globe in our efforts and attempt to get to a cure.
That's great. And I mean, over the last couple of years, as we've been going through this moment, how do you see, I mean, certainly I think positively we see ourselves now emerging from this. And I imagine probably, maybe I'm wrong, that perhaps individuals that suffered from diabetes put off care maybe in the early days of the pandemic. And I'm just curious as to where we are with that process, and also perhaps the impact that it's had on fundraising and other elements of your business.
Yeah, what I can say about diabetes, I certainly, living with it when the pandemic first, kind of hit, that every time you heard the word coronavirus, you heard the comorbidities of asthma, obesity, and diabetes, right? You were at greater risk of dying from COVID if you were impacted by that. So, our community being, immunocompromised as a whole, we were definitely impacted. Obviously the Institute shut down. We weren't able to provide tours to folks. And that's been one of our highlights, right? The ability to go and actually see and touch and feel and talk to the researchers one-on-one. So we had to modify much of the work that we did, really coming up with some creative, innovative solutions to solve for much of that. Which we're excited to move forward, and those things are going to stay in place now. We're launching a virtual tour on our website soon, so that people that can't get on a plane and travel are able to actually see the work of the researchers themselves. We actually have a robot that is going to go live April 1st. So folks that actually want to sit at home. So you'll be able to sit there on your computer and walk around the Institute with me, giving you an actual tour without being there in person. So we, have taken much of the impact of the pandemic and tried to pivot, to some new business models and opportunities. I think is the best way to.
Well, I gotta tell you, I mean, I don't suffer from diabetes, but I do get all my healthcare from the University of Miami, and I have been blown away of the high quality there. It's just, I don't think probably people even realize it's really off the charts compared to anything I ever experienced in New York, and the real thoughtful nature of what they're doing here. So I mean, kudos to the Institute and what you guys are doing. Going into 2022, what do you think's on the agenda?
I think there's a few things on the agenda for me in terms of both the foundation and the diabetes community as a whole. The first thing I'd say is if you look across disease states, the diabetes community is one of the most fractured communities that are out there. So between us and JDRF and the American Diabetes Association and the Diabetes Research Connection, Children with Diabetes, you can list off tons and tons of groups and organizations that are all out there targeting and impacting people living with diabetes. And that does the community really, I think, a tremendous disservice from the perspective of there are a limited number of people that are impacted by the disease. And when you're looking to actually make an impact from a philanthropic perspective, you dilute the pool, right? So I'm out there competing against other organizations that all say, well, we have, the best way to get to a cure, or we have the best way to get to a cure.
Right.
So one of my primary focuses for this coming year is to identify and eliminate gaps within the diabetes community as a whole, and start to decrease some of the confusion that donors have when they get potentially 3 or 4 or 5 things that say diabetes on. Well, where do you end up giving to? Most people end up just taking that and dumping it in the trash because they don't have an idea as to what it is. So thinking about collaborative ways that we can work together to talk to donors about what each of our goals are individually, but then collectively, I think is going to be, it will be one of my top priorities for this coming year. Equally, one of our larger challenges has been from an awareness perspective. We've been very good over the years as a foundation of promoting our work, both here in South Florida and equally in New York. But we, look, there are people with diabetes everywhere. So, we need to be talking to as many people as possible. So expanding our reach and getting out there and talking to folks is exactly what we're doing. So we're, hosting events in Connecticut. We did an event in Boston. We're going to be in LA again. We'll be in Naples, Atlanta next week. So really making sure that we're connecting with people so that they're aware if they're looking for an organization that is solely focused on cure specific research, that we are the largest and most comprehensive organization in the world, really, to be able to do that. And that's one of the things that I love about the Institute as well is, we have everything from bench research, basic research that goes on in the building, all the way through clinical. So somebody that has a great idea on the 2nd floor can go up to the 4th floor and then, work on it there and then bring it down to the 1st floor and impact patients like me directly. You're not going to find that virtually anywhere else in the world.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love what you're saying, highlighting, clarifying, bringing it to a broader audience for sure, finding ways to integrate what you guys are doing with other organizations that are working in the diabetes space. Completely makes sense. And Sean, obviously, I've been so impressed with what you guys are working on. And so I thank you so much for being on UNCAGED today. We've been speaking with Sean Kramer. He's the Chief Executive Officer of the Diabetes Research Institute Foundation. If someone needed to and wanted to reach out to you, hopefully to make a huge donation, or really just to kind of get some advice on what's happening in the diabetes space, where should they find you?
Yeah, they can look us up online. Obviously, our website at diabetesresearch.org, but, I'm active on LinkedIn. So, look me up on LinkedIn and, feel free to shoot me a message. We would love to talk to folks. Equally, if you want to send me an email, my email is skramer@drif.org.
Excellent. Well, listen, Sean, thank you so much for being on UNCAGED today, and we look forward to talking to you again.
Great. Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it.
Cheers.